I'm Samantha Flores. I'm going to talk to you guys today about immersive technologies within the airport environment. And I kind of feel like this might be a summary for most of the presentations that have happened today, but hopefully it'll be interesting to you to share some of this information. Before we start, I wanted to go ahead and let you know that I work with a firm called Coburn, and we are located, our headquarters are located in Dallas, but we work in LA as well. And we work on several different types of aviation projects. Some of the ones that I've been part of the past 5 years have been competition designs where we start to look at the immersion of technologies with passenger experience and how we can engage and enhance that experience as well. One of those projects is the Shanghai Pudong International Airport South Satellite, and this is a building that we were engaged in and is currently in construction, and will be the largest satellite building whenever it's finished. And another one that's pretty close to home, most of you have seen the Bradley West Connective, and it's close to home for most of you from LA, here at LAX, and it's one of our personal favorites because it's a smaller design as compared to some of the larger ones that I just showed, and we're able to focus a lot more on the passenger experience and understanding the complications that it is, complicated areas that airports kind of engender. But with the variety, the small variety that I showed you of the projects that we work on, what we're not interested in talking to you today about are the buildings that we design. It's more about why we design the buildings we do. And this goes back to the notion that passenger experience is quickly evolving, especially in our time today when technology is just constantly developing at an exponential rate. And so we have to look at airports on a different level of scales, starting with the global scale, looking at how it informs the local nuances that then inform and engender different species around the campus and different connections around the campus. How do we connect people to the city? How do we connect them to the world? And then down to the terminal. And then how do you connect passengers to passengers within the terminal itself? This type of connection engenders different scenes that happen within the terminal, and that leaves an impression upon the passenger themselves. And one of the things that we do focus on are these specific moments, these specific impressions that passengers are left with after we have finished our terminal design. And we like to go back and understand how those moments have affected the passenger. But today's current society, most of these moments are completely changed by the fact that we have this seamless integration of technology. I'll be using that word a lot. So what you can see here is the typical diagram for the acceleration rate of technology. But what I'd like to show you is I've compared it to our South Satellite construction schedule, if you can see it on the bottom in the middle diagram. And what I've looked at are the different technologies that are being developed from 2014 all the way to 2018 when we're supposed to be opening the terminal. And you can see there's just a massive list of new technologies that are very important to the building. Things like 3D printing building parts and using AI in the building, immersive technologies, and different machine learning that are becoming very, very important for new buildings today. And that's one of the things that we need to start looking towards. And so one of the challenges for architects today is how do we start building buildings that are more flexible for the passenger experience instead of becoming immediately obsolete. And there are 3 different areas of the terminal I want to focus on today. And the first would be the curbside. I think that these 3 areas we're starting to see different technologies being integrated in very strategic ways. And I'm first going to take you back a little bit to the beginning of flight, and understanding that when flight was first invented, it was more of a spectacle, and the sky was the limit, and it was something that was to be enjoyed. And as it became part of a modality, roads were paved, terminals were built, and the passenger experience was really developed. And this is what we're looking at as the golden age of travel, which has been talked about quite a bit today. But as travel became more of a priority for passengers and something that became a little bit more part of a habit, we started adding different lanes, adding processes, and curbside became congested, passenger processes became congested, and the level of anxiety of the passengers rose quite significantly out of confusion. But what we want to do with airports today are open the airports and the curbsides back up to the spectacle that we had back in the romance of travel, and really integrate those technologies and use them to the betterment of the design. This is showing the idea that the Curbside Evolution will implement different air taxis or different modalities. And these are not futuristic. These are things that are happening today. One of the things that we're seeing along the curbside is in the advent of the ECAR, which can biometrically scan you and get all of your information before you even get to the airport, so that once you get to the airport, it's a seamless transition from curbside to the lounge. And then the same with the battery-powered drones, or the battery-powered pods that can link up as you go down the highway if you're going to the same destination. And furthermore, implementing different AI into different ECARs and modalities can link into passenger habits and understand your patterns, so it gives you a more empathetic ride to the airport. And these different modalities are starting to really dissolve city infrastructure and city grids. And this is something that we're seeing along with the passenger drones, where they're really dissolving that city grid, and there's not a need for that type of paradigm anymore. So it kind of raises the question on how different technologies in the airport are changing the paradigm. And one of the ways that this is happening is automated services that we're not...
Vaderlande, moving...
Sorry. One of the ways that this is happening is different autonomous services that we're not used to thinking about as a passenger. This is the fleet from Vaderlande and Toyota. And what this ability does is it adds a flexibility layer to the baggage handling system, where it can cut down on wait times in the bag claim hall, or even deliver your baggage straight to you at curbside. And an even more idealistic view of how baggage can help us in the airport is having a carry-on luggage valet that personally follows you throughout the airport to your gate, or even shows up at your hotel and has your luggage there ready and waiting for you. And this is just kind of reinventing the sky cap, if you will. But something that these immersive technologies can provide is a different look on the airport, understanding the empathetic portions that we tend to leave out whenever we think of technology. And I think that we're going towards more of those romantic ideals with the implement of innovations happening in the airports today. Everyone's familiar with security processes and how they're being revolutionized today with the security baggage screening and the CT scanners that kind of cut down on the screening time, and then also the innovation lanes. But there are different innovations that are being implemented in airports now that will further this technology. Again, going through the evolution of the process for security, looking at how security is today with the queuing pool, the passenger identification check, then divesting, going through biometric screening, and then redressing in front of complete strangers. What we're seeing change now in airports is the idea that we start to separate passengers based on their ticket type. This is something that is happening now, so we see TSA PreCheck lanes for frequent flyers, or family lanes for people that have young children or elderly adults, and then regular passengers get to brave the last lane. But what we want to look forward to is the idea that there are no lines, there's no check-in, there's no document check, there's no security screening, that it all happens as a part of your travel through the airport. And it happens unbeknownst to you and almost imperceptibly. And this means that we have the ability to start screening people at the roadway, at the curbside, and then diffusing biometric systems throughout the airport, so that you're being biometrically checked and screened as you're walking through the entry portal and the vestibule, and then document check doesn't happen anymore. You just swipe your hand and you're finished with your document check, and then boarding the plane is easy enough as scanning your iris. And all of these technologies are at play today. We look at Saida and their dashboards that are helping us to determine better queue management strategies and better stress and anxiety level strategies as well for passengers. And then Zovis, with their personal tracking technology, is able to identify passengers based on their ticket type, so that they can follow their business passengers, their priority passengers, their economy passengers through the airport, and understand the types of behaviors that they engender throughout the airport, so that we can better service them in the future with different offerings. Another thing that we are looking at now is the idea of the PIV scanner, so that you no longer have to scan your fingerprints. You scan the veins inside of your hand, so that whenever you're going through, you don't touch the turnstile. And this can put forward 600 people per hour, which right now I think we're at about 250, 275 in most airports. So that's a significant change. And then also JetBlue has introduced the iris scanning at the airport whenever you're boarding the gate. So you can opt in to talking to the gate attendant or scanning your iris instead if you would prefer. The last is the Dubai Digital Aquarium, which it takes 15 seconds to walk through and it builds a full biometric profile for you. And then there's this idea of moving forward past the technologies that are already being implemented and looking at blockchain and how that can create a secure airport for us. If you are tying your identity to blockchain, the airport does not need to store any of your biometric data or any of your personal information. But what this can also do is help us to create a free flow throughout the airport, which we're seeing airports open up their airsides to non-ticketed passengers. And this starts to identify a dissolution between landside and airside completely. And this will afford the airport a more casual experience for the traveler. And understanding that actually I think there was a statistic thrown out there earlier, but 86% of people, they don't mind giving up their information to the airport, and that's because we can start to create ubiquitous connectivity throughout the airport and start to design multi-layered experience throughout the terminal as well, so that people are not coming to the airport to wait on a plane, they're coming to the airport to do different things. This will help us dissolve the typology of the airport and dissolve the way that we do the architecture of the airport. We can no longer do these cookie cutter concessions because that's not what people are wanting. Culture actually drives architecture, and the culture is driving for a more dissolved solution. And also looking at environment manipulation and the different products that are out there to help you change the environment, the sounds that you're hearing around you with the Doppler earbuds, or the loud steps to Aviation. The most important one is probably the Wristify, which can change the temperature of your body. You set it to a personal temperature that you feel comfortable with, and it will constantly send you pulses to keep you at that temperature, which has a significance on the airport in general, because they can lower the interior environment about 1 degree Celsius, which is about 34 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty significant savings in energy. And then we start to look at the airside of mixed reality, where AR and VR overlaid onto all these different layers of the airport can engender new ways of shopping, new ways of experiencing, crowdsourcing ideas so that your passengers are actually building the airport experience that they want, so that you're giving them a space that's empty and you provide them with an experience that they desire. And this is already happening with AR and VR, where stores are leveraging these different types of technologies, using phones as a platform for AR to look at products and look at product information. Or you can see Lufthansa is using VR to sell upgraded experiences to passengers at the gate. And then other companies are using VR along with haptic sensing seating so that they can sell different trip destinations to people at the gate as well. We talked a little bit about beacons earlier, and maybe they're not in favor, but the beacon technology is able to push out that information that the passenger really wants to see before purchasing a product. And that's what we're seeing with the AR and VR as well. But the idea that is most important to me is this idea that Amazon has kind of latched onto with this Just Walk Out technology. They have this view that stores should no longer have lines, should no longer have register waiting periods. You should be able to just walk in and take what you want and walk out and have no problem. And that's what they've kind of designed with it. Most of you are probably familiar with, you tap your phone on a turnstile as you walk into the store, and then you go and you grab your items, you put them in your bag, and you walk out. And as you walk out, it's added to your virtual cart, and it's already paid for without any hassle. So these are the types of romantic ideals I think that the airport will need to engender in the next few years, and start thinking about the future in general. This is, dissolving airside, dissolving the baggage systems, and looking at different ways of security, providing a more secure airport without being burdened by the security. And then engendering different environments throughout the airside that can overlap and integrate different technologies, all while giving you a completely personalizable experience where you can make it anything that you want on your own.